Blog Talk Radio.
Are you interested in starting a new love life? Or working on the one that you're already involved in? Welcome to Seduce Smart with Jennifer V. One of the secrets to getting others to love you is to love yourself. Jennifer will share all kinds of secrets and topics to finding the love that you want. Now, here is your host, Jennifer Victory.
And welcome to Seduce Smart. I am very looking forward to today's show. Are you a single parent? Are you dating a single parent? If you or someone you know answered yes to either question, then today's show is for you. I'd like to welcome today's guest, Judy Graybill. Hi, Judy.
Hi there.
Judy is a step-family coach and an expert in this arena. I'm really curious. I don't know a lot about this, so I'm going to be learning probably just as much as you are. Thanks for being here today, Judy.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I'm really excited to talk about this. I mean, I think this is a fabulous subject. I wish I knew this information before I actually had my personal stepmom experience.
Exactly. So let's go ahead and dive right in. What's different about dating a single parent compared to dating someone without children?
Well, time is the biggest factor, both on a scheduling level and the frequency. So, for example, he probably has his kids like every other weekend or every other week. So during that time, he probably want to spend the time with his kids, so he's going to date during the off weeks, which is really different because as women, we're kind of used to almost like once a week, every week for a while. And just to give you an example, when I was dating a man with a single parent, we would schedule our dates as a late breakfast because it was right after he got his daughter off to school. And since he also had her in the evenings, and we both worked at home, that actually just worked well for us.
Are there any other differences that you can mention besides that?
Yes, actually, the frequency, I kind of alluded this to you in the first one. The frequency is a little less often because, again, he's getting his kids every other weekend. And, of course, the conversations are probably one of the biggest differences because a bachelor, they're just talking about the good time they have with their friends and the movies and whatever. But single parents, it's really all about the kids. It's all about the child movies, and if you don't have kids of your own, it's not uncommon to actually get lost in the conversation.
So Judy, would you say that this...
Your Disney movie.
Yeah, exactly. So would you say that this prolongs the dating process a little longer?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I think women should expect this. Like, typically speaking, sometimes like a bachelor might be ready maybe in a few months, but single parents, on the other hand, they're a little bit leery about introducing their kids to a new partner. So they want to take their time getting to know somebody. They don't want their kids just to meet just anybody or everybody that they date. Also, single parents are kind of looking for a parental figure in the person they're dating. So that also kind of extends a little bit because there's more of a evaluation period per se, if that makes sense.
Okay. So how long should someone expect the dating period to last? Would you say 6 months, or is that pushing it?
Oh, actually, that's probably it's probably longer than that. In fact,
Okay.
I one of the things I like to tell people is to welcome this time period.
Mhm.
I say take as long as it takes. Take your time, proceed casually and cautiously. Take advantage of this time to really get to know how he parents. Because one of the challenges that stepmoms have once they're in the situation is they usually feel like they're not prepared. And no matter how much you try to prepare to be a step parent, you still don't feel prepared once it actually happens. So take advantage of the long dating period. And so I think it's actually a good thing that it takes longer, and I think women should take advantage of it. They should expect it, take advantage of it, pay attention, use this opportunity to really learn how he parents, because this will be a really huge factor in how things go later on. Find out how he disciplines. This is a great opportunity to find out if he's gained closure, for example. Gaining closure is probably the number one factor. If your listeners don't remember anything else from me, I hope they remember this one thing about gaining closure from last relationship. This long dating period allows us to really evaluate if they've gained closure from their last relationship. And even though that's not going to ensure long-term success, it'll give a huge leg up if they have gained closure.
Mhm.
So take advantage of the long dating period.
Great. Are there signs to look out for that he's not had closure yet?
Yeah, excellent question, because honestly, we definitely want to know. And I want to start, let me explain what I consider to be closure, okay? And I think many people don't really understand what closure is or what it looks like. A lot of people think that it happens automatically, and a lot of people think that the closure is already there when a person is ready to date again. But actually, that's not necessarily true, because people date for many reasons, and it's not necessarily because they've gained closure. So in the context that I'm referring to, closure is strictly an emotional level. It's more than just accepting that it's over. It's fully accepting where you're at now, not that you're a jilted ex, so you're not really holding that person accountable anymore on an emotional level for ending the relationship. So therefore you're not in victimhood, you're not in blame mode, you're kind of just accepting where you're at. You kind of passed the 5 stages in mourning period. I mean, we all go through that mourning period where, we're basically identifying ourselves as a couple when we're in a relationship. But once the relationship is over, we need to accept. We need to go through the stages to accept it. And acceptance is the final stage of closure. And once we've accepted it fully, emotionally, that we're ready to have another relationship, that's what closure is. So now that I've explained what closure is, and we all know, let me give you the top signs. One of the best signs that I use for closure, whether a man has gained closure or not, is if he's forgiven his ex. During the breakup process, there's all kinds of blame and issues, and you did this and you didn't do that, and oh my God. But if he's forgiven her, then that's a good sign that he's gained closure. Also, as a single parent, once he forgives, he's able to have a co-parenting relationship. So if he has a really good co-parenting arrangement with the kids' mom, that's also a really excellent sign of closure. And both of those signs kind of gives you an idea that things will go a little bit more smoothly, because the lack of those things are going to create a lot more bumps in the road.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yes. And I also want to say that even with those signs, even when those things are in existence and you're feeling like it's good to go and you feel like there's closure and you feel comfortable with it, that doesn't mean that it won't change. Like, for example, if the kid's mom gets remarried, or if for some reason she decides to take him back to court for maybe more alimony or child support or, heaven forbid, custody, then that's going to bring up other issues. So sometimes even our best efforts to see that a man has closure can be thwarted, if other changes take place. And one more thing that I want to say as far as closure goes, if a single parent is not legally divorced, my rule is that he probably does not have closure. This is one big difference between a single parent and a bachelor without kids. Bachelor without kids is not that big of a deal if he's separated but not legally divorced. But once he has kids, that divorce process can take years, especially if they've been together for a long time and they have a lot of property, and there's a lot of money exchanges or whatever. If there's animosity, the court battles and for whether it's property, custody, child support, alimony, all of the court proceedings can last for years. I've known some divorces to last 3 to 5 years, and it's very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
It's very difficult to gain closure when you're constantly having to deal with the emotions of that quote unquote battle.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Well, now that we know some of the signs for closure and exactly what closure is, how long should you date before meeting the kids? What would you consider appropriate, and what's the best way to go about that?
This is a really, really common question that I hear a lot,
Mm-hmm.
And it's a little bit tricky because there's not one size fits all type of a thing. But typically, a few months is usually good. Some people want to wait a really, really, really long time because they're really leery about, single parents are kind of protective over their time that they spend with their kids, and they don't want to, introduce any emotional upheaval if it doesn't work. So some people think it has to be a long time, but I actually say once you know that the relationship is more than just a physical attraction, it's okay to be introduced. So it's not really a time factor as it is where your relationship is at type of thing. So, and Jonathan Aslay gives 3 months as the typical, like when it's just more than just physical. He gives the rule of thumb of 3 months. So I would go with that.
Okay.
So how you introduce, that's another thing that is another common question, because how you're introduced will be a big determining factor. I do not recommend being introduced as a future stepmom or as my girlfriend or boyfriend or that type of thing. It's best to just be perceived as a friend, and maybe your goal for the kids is to be considered just a role model at first, because that makes it easiest for the kids to adapt emotionally. Because if you're introduced as a stepmom or a future stepmom or a girlfriend, the kids' red flags are going up already, and you don't want those red flags to go up so soon with the kids. Give it some time. Let them think that you're just a friend, and they'll think of you as just any other adult person that their dad introduces them to.
Mm-hmm.
Also, family events like family reunions and holiday gatherings are completely off limits, in my professional opinion, for first introductions. It's just because there's so many traditions with holidays and gatherings. You just want that to be strictly family type of thing, and kids are more likely to think their space is being invaded, or the memory of the other parent, or some such like that. So those are the basics.
Okay, great. Yeah, really common sense, really good tips. What about if you meet the children and let's just, to put it politely, they're brats. They don't like the person. How do they deal with that?
Run for the hills. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, a lot of people would want to, bow out really quickly, but I say this is an opportunity. I say this is an opportunity to see how he parents, because one of the number one challenges that step couples have is related to discipline issues. And it's not so much whether a parent is permissive or disciplinarian, it's more or less the different parenting styles. So this is your opportunity as a partner to see how he handles situations. Is he strict? Is he permissive? But more importantly, is that the way you would do it? If it's not the way you would do it, then you just want to take note at first. I do not recommend giving him suggestions. If you give the parent suggestions on how to do something differently, especially in the beginning, he is going to clam up, and he's going to basically break down the communication right away, and that's the last thing you want. Mm-hmm. Because parents get very, very defensive about how they parent. And if you are somebody who does not have kids of your own, they're going to consider you not as an authoritative figure. They're really not going to pay attention to what you have to say. It's probably going to start an argument, and it's going to break down the communication. So just observe it first and take notes. Don't give him advice. But then when you're alone and you think he's receptive, this is your opportunity to open up the dialogue. Kind of ask him a few questions about what your expectations would be if let's face it, if you're meeting the kids, there's the potential for it to get serious. So if it's already to that level, you don't know if it's going to be serious enough for you to move in with them or not. And if you do move in with them, you want to know what your expectations are. Because it's those expectations, whatever those expectations are, we all have them. If we don't know what they are, we're going to be disappointed. If you're not living up to those expectations because you don't know what they are, there's going to be arguments. There's going to be challenges, more challenges than what you're already facing. So you want to know ahead of time what those expectations are of you. So ask him questions like, is this the typical behavior of your kids? Does your son normally act like that, or is it just because I'm here? And when you're home, how do you handle it? How does his mom handle things? I'm sorry. And ask him, what your expectations would be. Would you expect me to discipline him like that? Ask him if he's argued with their mom a lot about discipline. So those type of questions. And also ask him not just how the mom is or was disciplinarian-wise, but also if it's changed since the divorce. So this will give you information like what you're expected to do, but also it gives you an idea of how receptive or the mom is going to be, or if she's going to constantly be in conflict about how your household is run. So those are all kinds of flags, if you will, of ways that it may not go smoothly. So again, and if discussions don't go well, you'll definitely benefit yourself to get educated on step-family dynamics and definitely get some parenting tools in your belt. This gives you a lot of information to take a lot of notes and pay a lot of attention, close attention.
So, Judy, just out of curiosity, is there kind of a rule of thumb when it comes to the ages of kids? Are younger kids generally nicer and teenagers generally less welcoming to someone that the parent is dating? What have you found? Yes.
Yes. Yes, and actually, this is also another question that I get asked a lot, and my rule of thumb is 6 years old. Of course, it varies depending on their emotional development and other developmental factors, but basically, if the kids are 6 or younger, you're more likely going to have a really smooth transition. The older the kids get, the more memories they have of what it's like with their parents, both parents. So they have a lot more traditions. They're getting a lot used to it. If you've been a single parent for a really long time, they're getting used to just being with their single parent. They get kind of selfish with their single parent, whichever parent it is. It could be with both parents. So the older they get, the less likely they want somebody else in or being with that. So 6 is kind of my rule of thumb, and that just gives you a ballpark because, like I said, it does depend on developmental factors and other emotional aspects as far as the divorce proceedings and stuff goes.
Well, I kind of like to fast forward to the more serious, when it's getting more serious in the relationship. Let's say that there's a proposal, you're getting ready to blend a family together. What are some guidelines that you give when a couple decides to get married and either one or both have children from previous relationships?
Well, first I want to say that I want to make a note of telling you that 50% of all women, whether they have kids or not, wind up in a step family at some point in their life. They wind up a stepmom.
Wow.
So there are a lot of, I know, isn't that significant?
Yes.
So I wanted to be sure to point that out because all women really need to pay attention to step family dynamics. So, when we fast forward and we're getting together with them, we want to have as many tools in our belt as possible. So I already mentioned a couple of the big ones. Different parenting styles is definitely one of the big factors that determines arguments or lack of arguments. Another one is another thing that people should note is the changes and, like for example, custody. Custody arrangements, it's more common than what we think for custody to change after the divorce is legal for all kinds of different reasons. So once you moved in together, regardless of what it was like when you were just dating, once you move in with them, that doesn't mean it's going to stay that way. And it's one thing that families should, especially women, be aware of. Because, again, there's a lot more emotional upheaval when the custody changes. And if you notice that you're having a lot of arguments or challenges in the parenting and discipline of the kids, and you're kind of relieved that the kids aren't around very much, and maybe you're kind of feeling a little bit comfortable that they're with their mom more often, well, take note, that might actually change. So it's not uncommon for some kids to have shared custody at first, 50-50, and then it changed to 75-25 or 100%. So.
Okay, really quick. We just have a few minutes left, but is it okay to refer to kids as stepkids or half brothers and sisters, or what do you think about those labels?
Good question. Actually, somebody just asked me this not too long ago, and I feel like it is not detrimentally damaging.
Okay.
The thing to note is that the words we use has an emotion attached to them. We all attach emotion to words. And I want to point this out because a lot of people think stepmom, for example, a lot of women don't want to be called a stepmom because of the fairy tales, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're all, afraid of the evil stepmother. So we don't want, and that's why we came up with words like bonus mom instead of stepmom. And so a lot of people think that it is emotionally damaging to call the kids step, and they're afraid to actually say to their son or their daughter, you have a step sibling, like maybe they're less of a kid than a step kid. And we use the word step kid sometimes in a bad context, as a throwaway. Oh, I treat him like a step kid, or
Well, that's good. So it's cool. Like, you're the expert, so it's cool to say, if you want to say bonus mom, fine. If you want to say stepmom, that's fine too. That's great. Well, Judy, it looks like our time is already coming to an end. Would you tell listeners how to get a hold of you if they have any more questions?
Yes, great. The best way to get a hold of me is to look me up on my website, stepfamilycoach.com. And I would love for people to connect with me on my Facebook fan page. That's Sensible Steps is my fan page, and you can also find that on my website, stepfamilycoach.com. I also want to say that I do give free evaluations. If anybody wants to get more information on their specific situation, I give free consultations, and this is really great if you want to know if you're about to move in with somebody, and you want to know what the red flags are, if there are any, if there's anything you should be concerned about. The consultation is a really great way to do that, and I offer that for free.
Wonderful. Okay, well, listeners, go ahead and, if you're in that situation, you got to know as much as you can. Knowledge is power, so head on over there. Thanks for listening to Seduce Smart. As always, be smart with your heart to create the love life of your dreams. I look forward to hearing from you. My website is www.seducesmart.com. You can also get a free copy of my ebook if you head over there. Just put your name and your email, and you'll get an instant access to your download. And I will talk to you again next week about another exciting dating and love-related topic. Until then, have a great week.
Be smart with your heart. Visit SeduceSmart.com for tips and tools on how you can create more romance, happiness, and love in your life. This is not just a site for women. Guys, you'll find this useful too. Jennifer Victory's site will bring you star news, style tips, Q&A, and more. Plus, sign up for Jennifer's newsletter. Get information about where to find her book, Seduce Smart. Transform your love life in 30 days. And plan a coaching session with Jennifer. Visit www.seducesmart.com today and find the love you want tomorrow.